You're listening to an Anazao Ministries podcast.
Have you ever been reading a book that was so good you just couldn't put it down? Pages that enthralled you so mercilessly that the outer world did not exist to you anymore? That's what we're talking about today. I am TJ Blackwell, also known as Tiberius Juan, also known as Tejas. I am here with Josh Rosengrant, the Josh with the good opinions. And let me tell you, Josh, I've been geeking out pretty hard on Soul Eater recently.
Ooh, okay. I can admit, I can acknowledge that one.
Yeah, old throwback. I had to figure out how it really ends, and the manga is way longer than I thought it was.
Yeah, I watched the series through, and the ending was really strange.
Yeah, it doesn't end like that.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, that's not how it ends at all. What have you been geeking out on?
Let's see. In the days since our last recording, I've been watching a new show called Symphogear, which, if you haven't seen it, it's described as
I'm already hooked. It's a great name.
All right, I'll just give you the premise then rather than trying to come up with some fancy way to describe it. There are, of course, the villains called the Noise, these unknowable creatures. And then there are the heroes, which are just, all of them are just young girls, and they have these ancient relics that allow them to, when exposed to the right sonic pitch, aka the right song, forms battle gear around them, and they can they're the only thing that can fight the Noise.
All right, of course, it's a magical girl anime.
It's a bunch of singing warrior little girls.
Sweet. I might check that out. Probably not.
It is, however, not a little girl's show.
All right. So today we're here to talk about our favorite fictional literature series, and there's a lot to talk about. We're not going to talk about every facet because that's several thousand pages for me, and I assume it's quite a bit for you.
I'd say, several thousand sounds pretty low end to me. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. Well, it's not even halfway finished yet, to be fair.
Fair enough. I mean, who is more than halfway finished with what they want to read?
Yeah. Oh no, I'm finished up to date. He's not. It's for the record. I'll just put it out there. I'm talking about the Stormlight Archives.
Makes sense.
Fantastic books. We are on book 4 out of 10. The series is not going to be finished if it stays on schedule until I am 50 years old.
And you're how old now?
I am 23.
That's a long time.
That's a long time, and I'm here for it. I'm absolutely willing to wait. So before we get into it, what is your favorite fictional literature?
Oof. See, it's such a hard question, and because the answer has changed over the years, really. I mean, when I was really young, my sister, of course, got me into Harry Potter. Harry Potter was great. The Percy Jackson books at the time, also great. And then I kind of moved on, and then Aragon, though, I read the entire Inheritance cycle, and
Fantastic.
I'm still in love with that. And now we're getting definitely the first ever movie adaptation that's ever existed of Aragon.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for that myself.
Yeah.
It was weird that they did a PlayStation game before they did a movie, but
Yes.
I thought the game was good.
Because, as we know, they never made a movie of this before.
Yeah.
Just like Avatar, they're making a new live-action Avatar, which will be very interesting. Because they never did that before. Speaking of the Last Airbender, not the blue people, of course.
Breaking new ground.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But with the original creators at the helm. How wonderful.
What a good idea.
Isn't it? Alas. So other ones I really got into recently I've started reading through The Wheel of Time.
A great series.
Yeah, when the Amazon show came out, I heard people talking about it a lot and how it in fact is not like the books, and I'm like, well, I want to read the books so then I can watch the series and complain about it. Because I don't feel like it'll be right for me to complain about it without reading the books. So I'm going to read the books first.
Sometimes it's fun to just watch something to complain about it.
Yeah, as you do.
That's really why I'm reading Soul Eater, so I can adequately complain about the ending better.
Hey, then you can explain it to me. because
Yeah.
the ending is still just what happened.
That's pretty much why I read Tokyo Ghoul, so I could complain
Same
about
problem.
the anime. Yeah. So your current favorite,
Yes.
you have pick one.
If I have to pick just one, it is probably still the Inheritance Cycle. It is just so good.
Yeah.
At
I'm
least as a
never gonna
series.
disparage somebody for that.
Yeah. And I mean, we've got the Inheritance Cycle, and then the Fork, the Witch, and the Worm that comes afterwards, and then book 5/6, depending on how you want to count, is coming out maybe in the next year or two,
Soonish.
if Pally needs to be believed. So I'm hyped.
Yeah.
But another one of my favorite book series, or not book series, I suppose, because it is so far a single novel. However, it is called Book One in a series. So I'm hopeful it's going to be a great series because I very much enjoyed the novel, and it's one I don't think I've brought up before on the show, but I did in our little staff group chat, little behind the scenes peek for you guys here. I did bring up something very interesting about it. It is getting a graphic novel adaptation.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I am speaking of The Shadow of the Conqueror, book 1 of the Chronicles of Everfall series by Shad M. Brooks. Oh, I love this novel. Like it is not a book that I could have read at the time when I read Aragon. That would not have been good. But it is, like, as I am now, like an actual adult, it is a very good book. To just give a brief idea of it, it's like, hey, what if we were in a cool fantasy world with a fairly unique setting, all things considered, given that there's nothing new under the sun. A joke that does even better if you've read the book, by the way. What if instead of following some great hero, we follow what would have been the villain 20 minutes ago? It follows the story of basically the worst guy who ever lived, if you listen to him and everyone else in the book. But it follows him on a redemptive path, and he's, of course, he's a main character, so he gets a lot of magical shenanigans along the way. But it follows his journey from being just a ruthless dictator, basically, effectively dying and coming back, and getting a second shot on life, and trying to fix most of his mistakes of the past that are fixable, which is not all of them.
Mm-hmm. He got Lazarus.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds actually extremely interesting.
It's great. It is dark. It is gritty. It goes into some nasty stuff that he did, and how the other people respond to it. His victims actually are also very, very main characters. Some of his worst victims.
Yeah, so
it's a great book.
That's one of the things that I like so much about the Stormlight Archives. For those of you who don't know, so far there are 4 books. It starts with The Way of Kings, and then it's what comes after The Way of Kings? Words of Radiance, and then I never remember the order. Words of Radiance, Oathbringer, Rhythm of War. That's what's out right now. The shortest one of those, I think, is 2,000 something pages.
Oh boy,
worth it. Every single page is worth it. This to me is Brandon Sanderson's best work, and he's done some fantastic work, including the end of the Wheel of Time series, because Robert Jordan passed away.
I remember that. Haven't got that far, but I do remember that that's the thing.
They're good. I think he does a good job. And Brandon Sanderson also writes books for younger kids, which I read, which were awesome. And so in high school, I saw this behemoth of The Way of Kings in the school library, and I was like, well, I'll read that, I guess. And this might be the only series that I've read where, have you ever heard that if the author's name is bigger than the title of the book, it's probably not good?
I've never heard that, but that does sound like something.
Hey, it makes sense to me, but not for this series. This series is amazing. What it really does well to me is it plays with perspective a lot. The books are so long because you're getting an entire story from several different characters' perspective, and it is incredible. I don't know if I have time to say everything I want to say about this series, but
you'd probably have to do a full episode, and even then,
at least. But as a basic, what's going on in this world, far in the past, there was an order of knights, awesome knights, shard bearers, Very cool. Very cool setting. Uh, Everything has little spirits that live in it and make it work. And in the modern day, post, gosh, what do they call the desolation? I want to say they call it the desolation. Basically, I need to reread it already. It's been like 3 years since I read the last one because it was brand new. But the way these spirits are used in modern times is basically as power systems, like batteries. People use glowstones as light. They die, they put them out in the storms, and that recharges them. The entire planet covered in something called the Everstorm. Every once in a while, it'll come by, horrible, terrible storm, and everything's adapted to it. It's awesome. The grass falls back into the ground. Really, really cool environmental storytelling and an amazing power system. And what the book takes us through is kind of like the reemergence of this ancient band of knights, good and evil. And that's all I really want to say. I want everybody to experience this for themselves.
I know what you mean. There was a lot more that I would love to talk about with Shadow of the Conqueror, but it would undercut the book to tell you the best part of the book.
Yeah.
Which I think is true of a lot of media these days.
One of the things, though, that Brandon Sanderson does so well is adding new information that recontextualizes old information into something either amazing or terrifying. At the beginning of the book, sort of towards the middle of the book, really, but in the beginning of our story, basically, the strongest people on the battlefields, royals, those things, they wear shard plate, and carry shards. Basically just amazing suits of armor and weapons. The armor is impenetrable, protects you from falls, it heals you. The weapons can cut through literally anything, and they feel like nothing. As the story progresses, and we meet our first modern shard bearer who is actually meant to wield these things, we find out that all of those weapons, all of those suits of armor are corpses. And all of a sudden, everything is much more morose. And he does it so well. And the emotional beats in the book are incredible. To me, for the record, if you've listened this far, I think you deserve to know my avatar for the show is Kaladin Stormblessed from The Way of Kings.
I was wondering what your avatar was.
Yeah, most people do. I haven't told anybody.
I was trying to decide if it was Jace from Magic or if it was one of the Fullmetal Alchemist characters.
Yeah, Jace Bellerin, that's for sure. But would have been a good one. Except I hate the color blue.
Oh no, that's fair. Blue is the best and most obnoxious color in Magic.
If you don't play blue, it's the worst.
Correct. And if you want to hear more of that, go back to our episode on Magic, where we try to explain it to Josh Knoll.
Horrible idea. But
but it was a fun episode.
The way he plays with perspective is amazing. I really mean that. We go from basically an entire race of people who are enslaved and downtrodden and combated, and they're called the Parshmen. We find out that since the desolation, they've all been in like a dormant state that was not their true form, and they start to awaken, and they were seen as the bad guys because they live in the chasms. We need the chasm fiends to get their gems out. They're just people, and then all of society has to reckon with the fact that they've been treating sentient beings that way, because before they really barely were, for years. And they're like, a little upset by that. But so are the Parshendi.
I imagine they were just a little upset with how they were treated.
Just a little, yeah.
Just a tad.
Just a bit. And they start to awaken. They have a bunch of scary forms that they can take. Scary for people who enslaved them for a few decades, 100 or so years. And it's awesome. And they're shard bearers too. And each sect of Shardbearer has their own unique powers. I literally don't think I can explain all of them, because I don't think we know all of them yet. Because Brandon Sanderson's a sneaky little guy. If he's got 10 books to write something, he's going to take those 10 books to write it. But the next one should come out next year, which I'm super excited for. And then he's going to take a 5-year break, which I'm significantly less excited for.
Ooh.
Because, oh boy, does that man write some books. I think he's
at least they're huge
every year. Yeah, they're huge. They're great. And they're not the only thing he's working on. Which, if someone else, who I'm not going to name, but is not George R. R. Martin, had the same writing philosophy, I'd have a different favorite book series, probably. But I'm still waiting on Doors of Stone. So if you know what that's in reference to, you're probably waiting with me, and it's probably been a minute. Yeah, I'm going to make you wonder. But it is the King Killer Chronicles. I'm talking about Patrick Rothfuss. Come on, man. I've been waiting so long. It's the only series where I've actually bought like a commemorative edition of a book, which is on Joshua Knoll's bookshelf at his house, because I just didn't have a bookshelf I liked enough to keep it up there.
So you gave it to Josh Knoll?
No, it's mine. I just have a shelf on his bookshelf. I have to go get it if I want to read it. But that series is also amazing, incredible power system based around true names and stuff. But
I do like me some true names.
True names are awesome.
As an Aragon fan.
Awesome stuff. Also, the Inheritance Cycle. Fantastic series. I always loved it, and Christopher Paolini is one of my favorite authors, including his newish sci-fi novel.
I still need to read that.
Super good.
I've heard. I really that's like on the top of my wish list. So if you want to get me anything for Christmas or my birthday, TJ, feel free to get me. It's To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, which is the novel we were just talking about, or the Stormlight Archives. Honestly, you sold me on that,
dude. I wish I could adequately sell them. Honestly,
or both.
I'm not.
You can give me both. That's fine.
I can't. I don't have that much money.
That's fair.
But man, it is. I can't explain how worth it is to go read both of those, but especially the Stormlight Archives, unless you don't want to wait. If you don't want to wait to get your conclusions, absolutely stay away from this until the year 2050.
I don't know if I can wait that long, though.
Don't read the first 4.
But then I'll have to wait that long.
That's tough.
What a conundrum.
What a conundrum. There's only one thing you can do. Read half of them.
Apparently, yes.
And then just pretend you can't find the other ones.
It's like, oh yeah, it's just, it's on back order. That's all.
Yeah.
20 years.
Yeah, 20-ish years. And the fact that really sells it to me, all of Brandon Sanderson's like teen to adult novels are in the same universe. The Cosmere, which if you've read the Mistborn trilogy, or Alloy of Law, both of those are, that's like a sequel trilogy to itself. Those are in the same universe as this, with very distinct power systems, which is awesome and implies a couple things. But the best part is they share characters.
Ooh.
There are a couple of characters who are in both of these series, and Elantra, I think, is the other one that's in the Cosmere, and a couple others. I haven't read them all. I might should, because it's relevant all of a sudden that I need to have read these other. I did read Mistborn trilogy and its sequel series, but those are also fantastic. I'm just going to say everything Brandon Sanderson has ever written was fantastic. He's a great author. Some people disagree with that. They just don't like his style. I love it. He also wrote The Reckoners, which is like a super power-based kind of thing. Evil Superman, the classic. But more interestingly done than most, I think. Especially more interesting than My Hero Academia. Until they explain why everybody has those powers, I'm just not that interested.
Just not a fan of My Hero in general, just because they never explain where quirks come from.
Not anymore. I'm over it. And I'm going to, spoiler alert for My Hero Academia, sorry about this.
Depends on what season you're on. I might be, I've heard of this.
If you don't want to listen, don't. Mute me now.
How do I even mute you?
Close your ears, hum something. Anyway, if you're current and you know what just happened, it bothers me that he's still alive. So, do it that way you will. Keep that as safe as possible. But, yeah, there are other things in the book. Awesome combat writing. He writes combat scenes very well in a way that you can actually follow them. The character turmoil for each and every character. There are like 5 main characters in each of these books. They're all compelling. They're all very interesting. They have different powers. They have different conflicts. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I wish I had better words to describe it. I might post an addendum to this episode after I reread the series.
I think the best words you could use to describe it would probably be the novel itself.
Words of Radiance. Truly words of radiance. Or Oathbringer. Did you mean Oathbringer? But that aside, amazing. Every what are those words? Synonyms? Every synonym for good. Apply that to this series. Literally every single one of them. Resplendent, gorgeous, eloquent. Almost said elegant, I guess that as well. But
Yeah.
I digress. Josh, do you have a favorite like book to film adaptation?
Book to film adaptation. Well, it depends on what you mean by book, I suppose.
Book or books, not comic book. Specifically not comic book.
Specifically not comic book. Okay, so that's
too easy.
It depends on, okay, this is once again, it kind of depends on what you mean by comic book, because I feel like I can get away with this one. It is kind of crossing the line a little bit.
Is it a graphic novel?
I think it's technically a Japanese light novel, but it was turned into a more
Your Lie in
American
April?
movie. No,
Oh.
Alita Battle Angel.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fair.
that movie was so good.
I'll allow it. Yeah, that's fair. I was thinking like Lord of the Rings, maybe.
See, I feel like that's too easy. It's too easy. I had to go a little deeper.
Oh, it's
Although
pretty much
Lord of the
the
Rings
only-
is in fact fantastic.
Yeah, it's like the only good one I can think of from an actual book to a movie.
As like for what they could do with it, I think the Harry Potter movies were good.
Yeah,
I think if they wanted to make, like, as with most things, if they wanted to make them the entire book, it would have taken like a television series worth of movies,
yeah,
which I would totally be down for on some of these amazing books. Like, hey, make a movie every episode for until as long as it takes to finish the book. Go for it. I will eat that up.
To be fair, Words of Radiance is getting one that I hope is good. Also, Harry Potter, definitely. Those are good movies.
Yeah.
You know, for most people. Some people hate them a lot. I don't really understand why. They do not change enough about the books to hate them like that. They're pretty faithful. But
They definitely did their work.
the worst book to movie adaptations, those are easier.
Yeah. Those are the ones that we refuse to acknowledge they exist.
Mm-hmm. We'll continue to do so.
Yes.
Yeah. Except for like Artemis Fowl. I didn't even watch that one.
Yeah, me neither. I did read. I read that series though. It was a good series.
Mm-hmm. Great series. And I heard so many bad things about the movie. I didn't even watch it. Wasn't Jack Black in it?
Was he?
How'd he mess that up? I'm pretty sure he was.
Oh, now I gotta look. All right, top build on Artemis Fowl. Ian Colfer, which is of course the actual author of the novels. Cast. Doesn't look like there's any Jack Black.
Okay.
You have Josh Gad.
Okay. I can see how that messed up then. If they had Jack Black, I think it would have went better.
I mean, most movies with Jack Black in them are just better for it.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of adaptations into a movie with Jack Black in them, the Mario movie trailer.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think if we go back for like the past 10 or 15 years, Jack Black could have done everything that Chris Pratt did. But I don't think Chris Pratt could do everything Jack Black has done. You know? I'm not saying Jack Black's a better actor, but I think he could have done most of those roles better.
I
think he might deserve the Chris Pratt level of love from Hollywood.
And he used to have it back in the day. Where'd it go? Where'd the love go, man?
Who got tired of him?
Dying.
He went off and made some of the best animated movies of all time, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that's enough live action for him." Kung Fu Panda, by the way. Yep. Easy, incredible.
Help me out. I can't think of the name of the movie. What is the movie where he's still Nacho Libre? I remembered it halfway through the question.
Nacho.
If you have not seen Nacho Libre, that is perhaps your homework for the weekend.
Yeah. Also, read the Stormlight Archives.
That is your homework for like the next couple months if you pick that up. But hey,
unless you got a lot of extra time on your hands, that's gonna take a minute. So you better get started. I'm serious.
Yes.
It's so good. It's ridiculously good.
See, I'm only on book 4 of the Wheel of Time, and I have 10 more of those, and then To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, and then I can start Stormlight Archive.
Yeah, and then Wheel of Time is also super good.
Yeah,
incredible series. It's just I think it's harder to get into
for a second. It definitely it's a lot slower. So there are. I mean, if you like how Tolkien writes, this might be too fast for you. Anybody else though, this tends to be a little slow.
Yeah. It definitely, I remember it being very hard to start. which is crazy because when I read it, I think I had just finished reading the first 3 books of the Stormlight Archive.
See, that just puts the little pedestal up and is like, all right, you're gonna get there, buddy. And it's a slow start because it tries to really dig into the characters and what their life is like.
Mm-hmm. And it is expansive.
It is. It's, even after 3 books, they've only talked about maybe half of the things on their little initial map, and there's entire eras of history that have gone by, possibly an infinite amount, except for it is definitely finite.
Yeah, it's like if you like whimsical writing, that's the place to go. There's a lot of whimsy in those pages. I think especially in the Rincewind books. So he's kind of a whimsical guy. But if you like that style, books series is going to be perfect for you. If you like to really get into your characters, perfect series. If you want something you're going to be reading for a long time,
perfect series.
Perfect series. If you want something with a middling TV adaptation, it's right there.
Yep.
It's right there. But do you have anything else you would like to say about your favorite book series?
I do have another one that I wanted to mention. Now, this one is by an author that I think a lot of people will have heard of, but it's not the series they'll have heard of him for. So the author is James Dashner, which, if you know who that is, you probably know him from Maze Runner, because he's the author of the Maze Runner series. And I can't speak to if Maze Runner is any good because I actually haven't read it. Sorry.
However, for the record, I stopped after the second book, so couldn't have been that good. That's all I'm saying. Or I forgot.
However, his other series is called the Mortality Doctrine series. This series is wild. So it is a departure from most of the series I've mentioned, which are fantasy leaning towards high fantasy. This is taking it back to sci-fi, and it's near sci-fi too. If you like the plot, I shouldn't say it that way. If you like the world building of Sword Art Online, you'll like this series. You can debate about the plot of SAO. There's a lot to be said on both sides about that one. But if you like the idea of the virtual world becomes real and the lines begin to blur, what is real, what is not, who is real, who is not. The show also it goes not only into full dive virtual reality and the ramifications on society once that happens. It also comes into fully sapient artificial intelligence. And what happens when you mix those two? When stumbling around in the virtual world where most people spend half their time, is that a real person or not? Is there a difference? How do you know you're the real one? Oh, this series is good.
Yeah, that does sound good. That's actually one of my favorite webtoons. Kind of does the same thing. It's called Hardcore Leveling Warrior.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I agree.
Super good. I think the ending could have been done better. But Hardcore Leveling
Warrior...
author
kind of admitted that he
literally said like, hey, I didn't know where I was going with this epilogue. Sorry about that. Anyway, this is the last chapter. Thanks for reading. Which was hilarious.
Yeah.
Made it worth it to me. He wrapped up the main story well enough, so I wasn't that upset. But check it out.
Game conflict was weird.
Yeah. To me, it is the best isekai story. And if you don't know what that is, it's, it's sort of isekai. Die in real life. You're in the game now. It's the best version of Sword Art Online. That's for sure.
Okay.
And, go to sleep, play the game in your sleep, wake up, do whatever.
Yep.
But it becomes more than that for a lot of people.
And then eventually, for everyone.
For everyone on the whole planet. Surprise. Yep. This is now your lucid adventure. But I do have some closing remarks about the Stormlight Archive. If you have trouble relating to characters in books because you are just too unique, which is fair enough, that happens. I get it. Please read the series. There are so many characters with so many conflicts. I promise you will find someone relatable in this story. It might take 6,000 or 7,000 pages to find them.
But it'll be worth it.
Because, man, he really gets in there. And if you just like awesome high fantasy combat scenes, please read it. They're so good. If you like high magic combat scenes, read it. Fantastic. If you just like really complex power systems built around oaths, read it. It's fantastic. But I think that's all I have to say until I collect my thoughts onto an actual piece of paper.
I'll throw in one quick nod to another great book series. It's definitely a younger book series, but with a middling adaptation. A series of unfortunate events.
Yes. Full agree.
Yeah, basically anything ever written by Lemony Snicket is quite wonderful. It's very eccentric, and it does it well. It does try to be, but it doesn't try too hard to be. His writing style is unique. I enjoy it. And then the original movies were kind of bad, and then the Netflix adaptation is decent, but it's a completely different story.
I think
especially
it's great
towards the end. Yeah, I like it.
It's fantastic.
Oh, I like it. They completely threw out the back half of the narrative.
That's fine.
Which it was still very enjoyable.
Yeah, but I also like the old movie, but that might be because I was watching it when I was like 6 or 7.
Fair enough.
So great performances in all of those. So for our wrap up, Josh, what have you been geeking out on recently? Well,
in addition to the last series that I was talking about at the beginning, the Symphogear series, I've been. Now this isn't this is a geeking out. This is not something I can easily recommend to people, but I would recommend it as well. I've been fleshing out my own D&D setting that I'm hoping to start up a bi-weekly campaign here at college.
Very cool. Very cool.
Tomorrow.
I feel like everyone's been there at least once. I did the same. I had like a whole setting planned out. I drew maps, which I might try to find in my room at my parents' house. I had them on the wall. I had like posted them with my other real world maps on the wall.
That's impressive.
And I barely got past that stage. But if you're just trying to draw cool maps, get a handful of pennies or dimes and like drop them.
Or dice if you're D&D player.
Or dice, yeah.
Yep.
And just trace the outline. Boom. That's a landmass. You're welcome.
Yeah, trace the outline, and then depending on how dense the amount of things you dropped, all the points in the middle are points of interest.
Oh yeah, great tip for map building for you there. Just in case. For me, recommendations. This is gonna be a gamer recommendation. All my gamers out there. I hated Overwatch 1. I thought that game was awful. Played it twice, never picked it up again. I'm having a ton of fun in Overwatch 2. I don't know why. They did not change that much. Pretty much the same game. I think it's just better. How much better? Probably not that much, but it is free. So check it out. If you ever want,
free is compelling.
Free is that's what got me into it, and my friend D'Amico. But if you always wanted to check out Overwatch and never wanted to pay for it, play Overwatch 2. It's a fun time. It's more fun than I thought it would be. Way more fun than I thought it would be. So that is it for us here today. I've been Tiberius 1 TJ Blackwell with Josh Rosengrant, brother-in-law to Jode or something.
Yeah, that's right. Although I don't think it's been said yet. Ooh, you broke the veil.
Surprise. Wow. And
so if you ever hear me talk about my sister or him about his wife, we're talking about the same person.
Yep. Please remember, we are a chosen people, a geekdom
of priests. One last quick thing. Shadow of the Conqueror, the graphic novel. It's still on Kickstarter for another 19 days as of this recording, October 10th. Come on, buy it. It's going to be great. I promise. Hopefully. I better not be disappointed. Bye.
This was an Anazao Ministries podcast. If you enjoyed this show and would like to learn more about our network, be sure to check out the Anazao Ministries Podcast Network.